Ugh. So yesterday I decided to do a little project, make little episodes of like reaction, impersonation videos, just to fill in the gap in the day. I'm trying to do more like hobbies and to kind of balance out my impulsiveness and not get stuck in my head. And I was thinking about journey healing and journey healing. That's my dyslexia right there. My healing journey. And I realized that I actually have gone through a lot of steps from where I started. So, my first step was when I experienced my first huge trauma release earlier this year. And my body started like getting out of whack, and I don't know if it was the severity of my PTSD or I did go through a psychosis, but got over it, and that's how they started changing my diagnosis, realizing that my PTSD is like super severe, and my anxiety is really severe as well. I got generalized anxiety disorder and GAD, and I'm super hypervigilant, as you could probably see in my other videos, and I just remember thinking clearly, but it seemed like nobody could understand me. You know what I mean? That maybe, even though it was, again, traumatic for me to go, especially that because no one really knew what was going on in my situation. Everybody involved wasn't educated on the fact that I don't have regular PTSD. I have there's 5 different types of PTSD, and mine scale ranks highest in the severity level. It's called complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or CPTSD, and it has a lot of differences that people aren't aware of. And so the symptoms can look kind of obvious, but concerning, like subtly concerning. And so I'm extremely sensitive to negativity, and it's getting better because I'm learning how to read people better. Not that I was already pretty analytical before, but like understanding emotions more like productively, like doing it on a regular basis all the time, like always working on it, because one of the symptoms is unable to recognize emotions. So I can think that excitement in somebody is actually anxiety, and it can be completely reversed, and I will react as the wrong version of it, the fear version of it. I'll always act hypervigilant and trauma triggered to that situation because anxiety means danger, and like anger means danger. Passive aggressiveness means intent to harm. And this is all on, like, if there's physical danger, like somebody's being aggressive over there, and that's close to me, that's considered physical danger because I'm so sensitive. I will fear more intensely, even though the threat is like across the street. Like, my sense of fear on that level becomes like sensitive to the touch. It's like so I can feel afraid, uncomfortable, like a little bit of anxiety. That's how I feel on that level. But my body is so ridden with trauma, like it is consumed by trauma on such a sensitive level that my reaction just to a little bit of like my gut feels weird, anxiety, like maybe my heart races a little bit, it goes to hypervigilant. It'll go to walking really fast, not being able to communicate properly. I like to picture it as my subconscious that's working right back here, and my conscious that's working up here. They start switching roles. I like to see it that way. Like, my instincts start taking over, because my amygdala, I hope I'm saying that right, is swollen. It's really swollen for multiple reasons. I didn't just have one traumatic brain injury. I've had several. And I want to say, let's see, age 5, age 15, about 15 years of narcissism abuse, and the accident. So I've had 4 traumatic brain injuries my whole life. Oh, no. I got in a fight. I was knocked out and I woke up in the middle of the night. What is it called? But that was just, the 15-year cycle was just with one person. Okay? That was just with one person. And I have CPTSD. So I've had trauma since childhood. Over the course of my whole life. Through society, abuse, neglect, peers, relationships, sadly some family that I no longer talk to. I had to cut them off because I gotta heal, you know what I mean? And I never felt in place there anyways. I always felt like I was like tolerated, because I was such a big mistake. But probably like the pity child, maybe. But anyways, I suffered many years. So that's about 25, almost 30 years of just mostly psychological. So that includes emotional, mental, like it's basically those, that the emotional neglect, psychological neglect, verbal abuse, verbal neglect. So I have experienced every type of abuse, almost. I'm pretty sure. I have suffered sexual abuse and neglect. I have suffered physical abuse and physical neglect, emotional, financial, isolation, gaslighting, crazy making was a big one. Because I'm bipolar. I'm already extremely sensitive, and that's a big thing for me. Like, I spent my entire life learning how to control my emotions because I can react really sensitively, and then my thinking becomes my emotions, and that's not a good thing. It's with trauma, it's like a domino effect. It'll just keep knocking. It'll keep knocking down tiles. Crazy making, and then from the crazy making comes the reactive abuse, and that is purposely looking for sensitive areas to prod, to stick into, to create a immense, very emotional, very abrupt, very loud display of it's hard to describe because it's not really what that is. You can't really describe it. It's just a reaction to the abuse. That's basically it. So, and then they make you they gaslight you by trying to make you believe that you are yourself the C word, like the crazy. Crazy is not really favored in mental health. But anyways, and then there's Darbo, of course, which is deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender, which means that if there is a chance that there are going to be more people involved, like let's say an argument goes outside of the house and it becomes a public display for all to see, all to hear. You know what I mean? Like it's like as soon as it gets like sheepdogged. There we go. As soon as the argument gets sheepdogged outside to make everyone pay attention to the situation, they will try to reverse it onto the victim by using the reaction from the reactive abuse and flip it back into making them either look like the abuser because because you push their buttons, specifically to make them look like the aggressor, or you go to the crazy making. I like to see myself as a very peaceful person. I mean, I have a temper. I got a mouth on me. Like, it's like that's just who I am. But I'm not an aggressive person. You know what I mean? My bipolar, because of my sensitivity, I get grumpy. That's basically, I get grumpy. I get irritated. I get agitated. I get annoyed. A lot. But I have never been in, I think I've lost my cool a couple of times, but that was before I started. I took a vow of nonviolence. I'm a conditional pacifist, which means that I believe in self-defense if it is justified by the situation. If I have no choice. And even like I have a lot of emotional dysregulated factors that have to do with my mental health and now affects my physical health. So I can always lose my cool. I'm saying it's a choice to be a pacifist. I mean, I've gotten socked in the face before, like randomly socked in the face, by women, and it's just, and then I just stand there, I look at them, and they're just like I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna get in a fight with you. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You're not worth it. So like I get hit in the face, I turn the other cheek, and I walk away. I'm like, screw it. You know what I mean? And I've had people watch stuff like that. You know what I mean? No one ever stood up for me. But that's what happens when, you're out on your own, so young, as a adolescent. That's what you learn to do to survive. I mean, I had a roof over my head, but kicked out of my house at I would say maybe a couple of weeks before my 16th birthday, so I was about 15. And it was a combination of situations and traumatic events that caused me to be extremely sensitive, not knowing that what we know now, that I had CPTSD. I ended up becoming so emotionally dysregulated and sensitive that I was what it says you have a hard time with maintaining relationships. That's with any kind of relationship. I was hard to deal with. So as soon as I turned 18, I went into a homeless program. And I've been on my own ever since. I've been taking care of myself. So, I stayed with my grandma for a little bit. But, I mean, as soon as I was 18, you know what I mean? And, they've been basically out on the streets ever since. I was a good kid. Even though I got kicked out, I wasn't a bad kid. I was a good kid. I was a GATE student. In kindergarten, I scored an IQ of 130. And it earned me a nomination into GATE school. And I went to GATE schools like Toby Wallace, Faulkner, Jackson, when it used to be a GATE school. But there's no... all GATE schools or lawless schools after grade school are private schools. And my dad was a trucker. He couldn't afford private school. So I went to public school. So, I did a bunch of extracurricular activities. I was on honor roll. I was student council. I was in band. I was in woodshop. I was in FFA. I was in choir. I did a lot of stuff. I was a gamer. I had friends. I had a social circle. I was a little weird, but I was just I would hang out with the outcasts, kind of, but I was still alone. I was still on my own, because I had a lot of I had to deal with. But that doesn't even include Cool Kids players. I was in theater for the town of Selma. I was an active kid. My great grandparents, they had a orchard of walnuts. I went camping. I went to the beach, like Avila and not Monterey, Morro Bay. Those two specific places is like my second home. My grandma is very good at saving money, and because she's been a hard worker her whole life, and we would spend our summers at the beach. The whole family would pitch in just to spend a week at the beach, and that was our special thing every summer. So like that place, it's like I'm not a local, but I'm there. I know the area good enough, you know what I mean? But yeah, I was a good kid. I was a normal kid. I mean, I was in bodybuilding. My class at Selma High was the first sophomore class to join the women's bodybuilding program at the school. And so I didn't do PE with just anybody. I did PE with all the varsity and junior varsity girls. I would work out with them. Like I would actually work out in a gym. We would do legit exercises, weightlifting. I would play basketball with, junior varsity and varsity. I would play with the juniors. So I had a broad circle of places. I was a loner, seriously. Like everyone kind of knew. I wasn't like totally invisible. Kind of knew who I was, kind of, but no one really knew me. And it was hard to, because if I got too close to people would, my sensitivity would be exposed, and people couldn't understand or didn't understand what my condition was really about, and sometimes it got too hard for the people who did. I would self-sabotage, and push people away before I would hurt them. Not hurt them, but just make it too much. Like we were kids, we were teenagers, we were adolescents, you know what I mean? Like not quite adults, but old enough to like around, you know what I mean? So I wasn't gonna burden that on people, like my issues. No, I knew I was difficult. I couldn't even stand myself. Like that's why I say I don't literally hate them, but I have a really hard time with teenagers. I really do. I'm a patient woman. I'm an extremely patient woman. I have a hard time with teenagers. I didn't like them when I was a teenager, and I didn't even like myself as a teenager. I have a hard time with teenagers. So I just thought, don't get too close. But then eventually, because I kept getting, I got kicked out and everything like that, I kind of gravitated towards a different kind of setting, per se. I went from the barrio to cozy gate schools. So that means that we had to move to nice areas. And we got used to it. And then once high school hit and we were back in our hometown, when I got kicked out, guess who had to spend a lot of time in old familiar places, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those towns where it's like a small town, so it's like it's that town like Salem in Stephen King. It's a town that sucks you in. If you get the chance to leave, leave. Because half of that town has its own borders. Okay? The police station is exactly on the other side of the train tracks for a reason. That's border control. So it's it was rough. It was always rough. But you learn to survive. It just sucks that you have to be a kid and do that. You know what I mean? You don't really know better. But I kept to myself. But anyways, after the amygdala swells, your hippocampus starts to shrink. That's the memory portion of the brain where, you know, processes short-term memory. And I've had physical traumatic brain injuries that hit me here. I have a flat spot up here. Hit me on the back of the head. Hit me in my frontal lobe. I had, not 7 traumatic brain injuries, I think, because I got pushed out a door on a rolling chair, flipped backwards, and smashed my head against the sidewalk. So that's 7. So I'm really, you know what I mean? But coffee. It does damage. It does damage over the years. And it's rough. It's really rough because you can't even... Everyone is like, where are the good ones at? We're at home. Because if we go outside, we will die. One moment, please. That's good. Whew. Alright. So, we will die if we go outside. I mean, look how much crap I already gone over right now. Like I can't talk about it all. You know what I mean? It's a life that I have spotty memory with. So I can't really get into more depth than just bringing up the general like recall of it. I can't remember details of my life. But these kind of things cause like serious damage to people. And it's something that people should know about. But yeah. I started off really sensitive. Like I couldn't even talk in context. Nope. My speech was like in the language of the subconscious. No context whatsoever, and we'll use any synonym. Yeah, even if it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It'll just relate everything. And it seems incohesive, but if you pay attention to what the person is saying, you would see a pattern. But not everyone can do that. No, not everyone is analytical. And so that's why it takes a lot of patience. You're already so far ahead, and you're already at the first point, and you're waiting for the other kids to show up, and you're cheering them on, you're working at it, but then
everyone starts hating me because, like, yeah, they would start hating me. And it would be like, why, well, like, overachiever or perfectionist or, you know, nerd or, you know, loser. Anyways, sorry, I got stuck on that. I bullied a lot. I wasn't trying to be the best or the greatest at anything, honestly. I just liked competing. It was fun. It's just honest, good sportsmanship. I mean, I was in women's bodybuilding. I played with the big kids. You know what I mean? Like, I was just... That's just who I am. And it just turned out that I was a gifted student who has ADHD, who has dyslexia. I am neurodivergent, so much so that they asked me if I was autistic, because of that neurodivergent. So, basically, I was hated, targeted, bullied, harassed, tortured, beaten sometimes. My life was made miserable, isolated, abandoned, betrayed, confused, like all of that, just because people didn't like me for who I was. Who I was as a person, they hated me for it. That's what that's the conclusion I came to so far. And I'll probably branch out some more ideas of, you know, what may have happened in the past. But like when I try to think of my past, it seems like my filing cabinet's very small. Like, things got thrown out after the aggressive assault, the attack at the house. It was basically bloody, and I lost a lot of blood from my skull. Caused a lot of oxygen deprivation. My pupils tend to blow out, which means that I suffered not a concussion like most of my other traumatic brain injuries, but a temporary, or I was either comatose or subcomatose, but in a sense comatose, for a certain amount of time before I went home. I had an extreme case of amnesia, that periodically would fog up my life from there on out for a while. So, just recently in this last year, I became aware enough to figure out myself about trauma healing, because I started seeing stuff on like YouTube that these people are going through this too. This is real. I wasn't freaking crazy. And same thing with the guys. I tended to gravitate towards toxic relationships with neglectful or abusive men. For me. They obviously either weren't aware and just didn't care about my feelings, or how I want, or how I thought I should have been treated but wasn't, or like I was neglected. I was either abused for it, or I was neglected because I was neglected by good men. You know what I mean? I was neglected by people that I loved, that, you know, I thought I loved, but it turns out that I've had trust issues my whole life, because that's CPTSD. So like I would lose connection with people. Tended to just push people away, or they would neglect me because, you know, I was being used or taken advantage of, because I was a highly empathetic person, and I would make them feel good about themselves, and they would treat me like caca. And as long as they were getting treated like kings, I had no say-so in how I was treated. I was not reciprocated. I was not respected. My feelings were not taken into consideration, and I was invalidated, gaslighted, and it was just, you know, like breadcrumbed. I was breadcrumbed a lot with the 15-year cycle one. The ghosting, and then when you're just like, okay, you know what, maybe I need to chill out. Maybe I'm not giving them enough time to like do what they're doing and like respond. So I'm gonna stop texting them. I'm gonna see how that works. Obviously, that was the opposite of what they wanted. Because they would start blowing me up. They would start freaking out about it, getting anxiety about it. They would resort to love bombing. That was like twice the treat for the 15-year one, because it was he got two things out of it when he would love bomb me. And so it was just as much as a punishment as it was a reward for me. And I think it's because I was neglected a lot. Expected to be loyal beyond a doubt, and not expect anything close to that from the other person. Even being okay with their lifestyle. Just be like, just keep them away from me. Keep them out of my business. Keep them out of my life. Keep us freaking separate. Like, just leave me out of it. I don't like those other women that you see. They are all a certain type of person, and that kind of person does not sit well with me. Like, my kind of personality. I had major issues growing up as a kid with high school versions of them. We're freaking adults, and we living on the streets. Okay? I am a peaceful person for a reason. I made two major mistakes when I lost it twice in my life, and it made me take a vow of non-violence for a reason. So I want, I can't, they're gonna eat me alive, and I'll get away from it because I know that it worth it. I know that ain't freaking worth it. I'll walk away from you. First bite, I'm gonna walk away from you. But they would cycle back on me over and over again. And then there was more and more women. And then there was personality. I had major issues growing up as a kid with high school versions of them. We're freaking adults and we living on the streets. Okay? I am a peaceful person for a reason. I made 2 major mistakes when I lost it twice in my life, and it made me take a vow of non-violence for a reason. So I want, I can't, they're gonna eat me alive. And I'll get away from it because I know that it worth it. I know that ain't freaking worth it. I'll walk away from you. First bite, I'm gonna walk away from you. But they would cycle back on me over and over again. And then there was more and more women. And then there was more and more women. And then with each woman came their own storybook of drama that I was weaved into. Getting targeted when he was with them and when he wasn't with them. So it didn't matter if he was with them or not. They would still torture me. They would still harass me. That I call women like this abusive women, narcissistic abusive women, psychologically torturous abusive women, hyenas. I call them hyenas because they love inflicting pain. Especially on innocent people, especially on defenseless people. And they're, because I'm a woman suffering severe narcissism abuse from my own gender, means I don't get a reward system. There's no reward system for me. They would abuse me when I'm without him or when he was around, because I was never really with him. Okay? I've known him the longest. I met him when he was not even in high school yet. He was junior high, 8th grade. And I was a sophomore. And I didn't know he was an 8th grader, but that's not that big of a difference. But yeah, I think, yeah. But he's only a year younger than me. But I would have to deal with this over and over and over again, having to hear the same hateful speeches from each one, the same horrible, hateful speech every single time. It's like water torture. It's torture. You have to, I literally kept reliving the same torture through every single female. And it's the hate. He would find ones, he would come across girls that were, I don't know, similar in a lot of ways. In some kind of way, they connect with each other, I guess a type. Anyways, qualities that are similar. But anyways, he would pick the opposite of me every time. I would have, I gotta get out of that pattern. I would have been ecstatic, dude. I would have been so relieved if he could have messed around
with decent women. But his type was toxic, narcissistic women. I mean, some of them even have BPD. So, yes, he had the exact opposite taste. And all of these, I used to call them hobby hoes. All of these women, like they were all just rotten. Because they most likely realized who I was. By not liking it, you can imagine what grimy street women would do to be the number one B, if you know what I mean. And to them, it's always a fight to the death kind of thing. And me, I'm on a whole nother level. That's why I was who I was. You know what I mean? And his downfall was not being there for me when I needed it. When I needed to trust him to protect me when I needed him to be loyal for me in moments that I needed him to be loyal. He went against what our core fundamentals were since we've known each other, and that was it. That's when he started losing me, bit by bit. But it got to the point where I got hurt one time pretty bad, and I needed to take off and clear my head because I had to think really, really long and hard about a situation, and I had to be very forgiving and very understanding. And sometimes I had to assume things weren't the way they were and move on, and then he would show back up again. Like, hello? So it just unraveled from there, honestly, until the attack happened. I don't know if it was because it was a extremely important, huge event in my life that negatively impacted me through multiple ways and extremely damaging ways. And I don't know if it was his narcissism, his disorder, if he went to the doctors, to that caused the disconnection during that horrible time. He wasn't there for me. But then that's when it just you know what I mean? It kind of cleared that fog that I was talking about. It was kind of foggy, to see if it's real or not. But it made things clear, and I've been doing good without him ever since. I'm very happy. I haven't been this happy for this long in a long time. In a very long time, and I like it. And now that it's obvious that there is nothing to fight for anymore, I can live my life. So, yes, I have suffered narcissist abuse. But I view it as torture because there was no reward. But my abuse came from women mostly. And various other relationships in my life. From different partners, family members, peers, whatever. And I chose to be with a narcissistic person because whoever I was before saw something in him when, we were kids. And that stuck with me. And it made the pain worth it. Working and being supportive of him, being understanding and open-minded about who he was, because I had no choice but to be really patient and understanding. I'm naturally analytical, and I had to always be analytical with him. Always. I was already hypervigilant before him. Like, I was CPTSD since childhood. Early childhood usually happens, like, something happens during developmental years. I'm not going to go into that. But I accepted him for who he was. And he proved that it was him, not his disorder. And that's, it made everything really, really clear. So that was about 15 years long. I was married in spaces in between to another narcissist, but he's doing good. It's civil. I have a beautiful son from it. It's what is it? Category 3, level 3, autism, severely autistic, nonverbal, 6 years old. Single mama. He visits his dad on the weekends. To be clear, I filed first, and I offered joint, and he chose weekends because for some people it is overwhelming to take care of a severely disabled child. It's special needs. Difference between borderline personality disorder and bipolar, they seem similar. But if I could compare myself to one of his exes, she was BPD, and I am bipolar disorder. I'm type 2, and we're exact opposites, as I told you in the past. And I have, and it's because I have too much empathy, too much heart. And she would say she was very proud to, wear it with honor that she had no heart. And that was her thing. But that can never be me. That's not who I am, because it's not in me. Like, I have too much gray matter. So, yes, I am an empath that intentionally knew who the narcissist was, intentionally stayed with the narcissist, and intentionally adapted to the narcissist, because at one point I thought I did love them for who they were and saw past the disorder. And I think deep down, because I showed that kind of love, I always was hoping to find somebody who can give me that kind of love. You know what I mean? But he couldn't do it. Not because he was a narcissist. It's because he just didn't love me. So, I mean, 15 years, yeah, it seems like a big waste. But honestly, it taught me a lot. It taught me that I am a decent person. And I do deserve to be happy. And I think that's the point of healing. So, yeah, I may have changed. I may have adopted some traits from my abusers over the years. It just helped me adapt. See it as like psychological camouflage. You know what I mean? CPTSD makes your face motionless, which makes you look like you lack empathy. That kind of makes you look like a narcissist. You know what I mean? But I'm not a narc. I'm actually bipolar with CPTSD, so I look like one sometimes, but not. I'm actually way too sensitive that it's all contained on the inside and it's encased in stone on the outside. That's a cool way of looking at it, huh? So that's what I've been going through so far, and I do want to eventually have a healthy relationship in the future. I don't date around. I don't introduce people to my son. It's never been important. I was never looking for that. So, like, I'm trying to learn how to read emotions, how to learn about them, how to regulate them, recognize them. But, yeah, for that reason, I want to come across somebody who can love me just as much as I can love them. And vice versa. Who can reciprocate. Who doesn't have to be smart, but who's intelligent. Who's empathetic. Who is, well, not empathetic. They don't have to be empathetic, as I can clearly state that that's not my type. Usually. So, someone who's compassionate. Loyal when they need to be, when they have to be. For me, someone I can trust, someone I feel safe with, somebody I can get reassurance from, someone who understands that the devil's in the details. You know what I mean? Like, I am analytical and I'm severely traumatized. So I tend to be over-analytical. Somebody who has to understand where I'm coming from, understand my anxiety and my disorder just like I did for the others. You know what I mean? And for who I am. Someone who won't try to control me, because clearly I can't be controlled. Somebody who respects me, respects my boundaries, respects my freedom, and respects that sometimes I need them, just so I can lean on somebody for a little bit, because I know I'm strong. Somebody who worries but can trust me and believe in me that I can If I need help, I will ask for help. If I need reassurance, I'm gonna ask for it, and I'm gonna take whatever kind of reassurance they give me. You know what I mean? Like, I need this right now. Can you help me out? Like, you know. But yeah, I think that at this point, I'm at a very, very positive stage in my healing. I have come a long freaking way, and I still got a long way to go, but I like where I'm at. Trauma healing.